And good evening, everyone, and welcome to Love in Motion. My name is Judge Kemp, Program and Events Director at the Street Trust, an organization focused on transportation justice and advocacy in all of its forms. But first, we'd like you to see this message. We here at the Street Trust would like to take the opportunity to acknowledge the land we are occupying. The Portland metro area rests on traditional village sites of the Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, Cathlamet, Clackamas, bands of Chinook, Tualatin, and many other tribes who made their homes along the Columbia River. We take this moment to thank the original caretakers of this land. Thank you. And now, your MC for Love in Motion is the festival director and founder of Filmed by Bike, a film festival that has galvanized bicycle communities by showcasing the world's most well-renowned bicycle films. Without further ado, welcome to your screen, Aileen Crotty.
Hey, thanks so much, Judge, and welcome, everyone. Welcome to Love in Motion and Happy Transportation Equity Day. I want to remind all of you that we've got that chat window going, so let us know, where are you tuning in from? What do you love about walking? What do you love about biking? Where are you biking? Do you love walking and biking through Forest Park, maybe up the lush and beautiful Salzman Road? Let us know. We want to hear from you all throughout tonight's event. Now, tonight we have 4 incredible storytellers sharing their tale. They'll be telling us about what moves them, what motivates them. They're all community leaders joining us tonight, and we're so excited to have them here. First up is a really incredible story that might change your outlook forever on one of Oregon's notable parks. We have Pam Slaughter. She is a founder and guide of People of Color Outdoors. She's also a children's book author of Hi, My Name is Robin. Please welcome to the stage, Pam Slaughter.
Thank you for that introduction. I'm very excited to be here. I was born and raised in Portland, Oregon, and I spent a lot of time outdoors, year-round. We live near green spaces, so it was really easy to get outside and to go someplace where we could see actual wildlife. And what I would do especially on the weekends or after school, is I would, get a bag and pick whatever was ripe, apples or pears or rhubarb, stick it in my bag with a book or a diary and go off, either on my bike or walking, and go to a green space. I would climb a tree and then I would just hang out. I would observe the wildlife and write about the little dramas, the squirrel and the crow are getting into it today. I would look at the clouds and try to decide what they look like to me, breathe the air, just be. It really fed my soul to be outside. And sometimes I would go with friends, sometimes I would be in a big group, a little group, but mostly I loved going on my own. One of my favorite things to look for when I was outside was a bear. I always wanted to run into a bear, take a a picture of it, but I never saw one. I grew up, got married, started a family, and lived in different states. California, Georgia, Colorado, Arizona, and all of those places had wild spots, natural spaces, but not like home. So while I enjoyed the variety and I enjoyed the adventure of getting out and trying the trails of new places, new states, there really was no place like home. I realized that I had taken for granted what we have here in Oregon. About 10 years later, my marriage ended and I did return home to Oregon. And I have to say, I still to this day appreciate walking outside and seeing the view of Mount Hood. I appreciate being able to go every single day, go no more than 10 minutes and see the Willamette and the Columbia River. And for 20 minutes, if I go 20 minutes in my car, I can see Oxbow Park and the Sandy River. Now, fast forward to 2019. I had started the group, People of Color Outdoors, and we were on an outing one day. There was a wonderful woman there named Angela Ellaby, and she was very impressive. Every time someone had a question about anything, a bird or a tree, a mushroom, a shrub, a bird call, she could identify it. I was very impressed. And after the outing was over, I invited her to, I asked her actually if she would talk to me about her knowledge. Like, I didn't know if she was a naturalist. And she said, no, I'm not a naturalist. I was born and raised in Portland, and my father spent a lot of time outdoors. And he would take my brother and me out and taught us a lot. And then she told me about her mother. Her mother's name was Stella Ellaby. I learned that her mother was a local Black history maker. She had been the first Multnomah County Parks Superintendent. And that was a position that Metro has now, managing the regional parks and green spaces in Multnomah County. So she was the first Black woman to hold that position. And her mother had come from Texas. Where her mother came from was pretty flat and dusty, and she had a lot of brown there, brown grass. The dirt was brown. And so when she got to Oregon and she saw the beauty of the hills and the trees, she was really impressed. And her favorite place, one of her favorite places, was Oxbow Park. So that really got my attention, that she loved Oxbow Park. I didn't need to ask why she loved Oxbow Park. Who wouldn't love 1,000 acres of natural beauty? Who wouldn't love the sight of salmon spawning in the Sandy River? Who wouldn't be captivated by the many different shades of green, whether it's the deep green of the thousands of tall sword ferns, or the apple green that's bright and cheerful on the pretty little maidenhair ferns, or the velvety emerald green of the moss that's blanketing the trees and the rocks. Who wouldn't love walking in a forest inhabited by giant trees that are 500, 600, 700 years old, where the sound is a deep but living silence, only interrupted by bird calls and water trickling or the leaves dancing in the breeze? I mean, what's not to love? It put a smile on my face to know that my favorite park had also been very special to Estella Ellaby. Angela went on to tell me that her mom had been credited with preserving the 92 acres of Oxbow Park that still had old growth trees. So I got really excited about that, and I couldn't wait to go home and Google everything about Estella Ellaby. And what I found out was that before she became the Multnomah County Park Superintendent, there had been a long-standing agreement between Multnomah County and the Bureau of Land Management. And the agreement was that the Bureau could go into Oxbow Park regularly. They could identify trees that needed to be taken out of the park. They could go in and see a tree that looked sick to them, or it might be damaged in some way, or it might be leaning against another tree and could fall, or it could have already fallen and they would drag it away, take it out. Well, in a nutshell, Estella Ellaby ended that practice. Now, that was in the 70s. So all through the 80s, the 90s, 2000, 2010, 2020, 50 years now, that old growth area has been left alone to thrive and do what it does naturally. There aren't a lot of places in Portland, in the Portland area, this is in Gresham, Oxbow's in Gresham. There aren't a lot of places in the Portland area where spotted owls live. They're endangered and they need pristine old growth forests to thrive. There are spotted owls at Oxbow. There's cougar, elk, bear, foxes, all kinds of things there. And knowing that Estella Ellaby is the reason why that place has gone for 50 years without having trees taken out, and that it's thriving like it is today, it makes me feel even more bonded to it. So I'm thrilled to have been able to share Estella's story, Oxbow's story. And now I'm going to show you some images of our visits. And thank you for listening to the story. We start our visits with land acknowledgement. And we also acknowledge one of the more recent caretakers, who is Estella Ellaby. Sometimes we start off with our circle. Sometimes people start out feeling a little shy and a little nervous. And then as time goes on, you can just see people relaxing and you can see the joy that comes. Is my time up? My time must be up. So I thank you for, yeah, I'm not able to share any more pictures. So thank you very much for staying with me and listening to my story. And I hope you enjoyed the screen share.
Oh my gosh, thanks so much, Pam. You know, I don't think any of us will ever view Oxbow Park quite the same thanks to your story. And I would love seeing folks in the chat tuning in to say that they're excited about Oxbow Park, that they love listening to your story, and some folks saying they can listen to you tell stories all day long. And a big shout out to Angela Ellaby, who is quite a historian herself and has even written a book on the history of the Woodlawn neighborhood. So I'm excited. I think I'm going to go to Oxbow Park this weekend. Now, I want to remind you all that we've got that raffle going for the BMC Alpen Challenge e-bike from Clever Cycles. It is super easy to enter this raffle. All you need to do is text the word bike raffle. That's all one word, bike raffle, to 44321. That's 44321. And good luck to everyone entering that raffle. Now, next up, we have a storyteller with a history that is steeped in dark and aromatic blends. He is the founder and the chief friendship officer of Nasa Familia Coffee. Please welcome to the stage, Augusto Carniero.
Thank you so much, Aileen, and thanks everybody for having me here. All right. Sometimes in life, you have to take a leap of faith. Today, I'm going to share with you my story of how I took a leap of faith, quitting my secure engineering job to start Nasa Familia, and how that helped me move towards my purpose and towards making a difference in the world. I'm also going to share with you how bikes have helped me along all along. So let me do a little screen share here with just some fun photos. There we go. So yeah, I've had a thing for bikes all my life. One of my favorite memories as a kid was building sweet bike ramps at the farm with my cousins. We had a lot of fun improvising with leftover wood and rusty nails and making some rickety ramps and you know, trying to land on two wheels, hopefully. So this one time I had a great idea. I thought, hey, let me try and jump over my cousin. So I convinced him to lay behind the ramp and I was gonna jump over him. And so I got some speed and success, flew over him, no problem. Well, the problem was he then insisted that he wanted to jump over me. So that was a little scary. But yeah, fun times on bikes as kids. Today, cycling is still a major part of my life, part of my well-being, my friendship, and my community as well. My first job out of college was as an engineer working in downtown Portland. I lived 4 miles from work and I commuted to and from work every day. And it was my favorite part of the day, a really pleasant way of starting the day. I didn't have to sit in traffic. It was healthy. You save money. I mean, you all know riding bikes is the bomb. And I couldn't understand why more people wouldn't ride their bikes to work. I was so convinced, in fact, that, you know, if more people would bike to work, the world would be a better place. That I started going around the office with a spreadsheet, like super geeky engineer thing, right? To show people how much money they'd save if they'd only bike to work. So in the end, I converted about 0 people. But it did turn out to do a couple of things. I convinced my office manager to create our first bike commuter benefit program. So taking the money they were saving from not buying me a parking space downtown and putting it towards a local bike shop. So I thought that was pretty cool. And we did end up recruiting other cyclists, and then that benefit stuck around. It was right about that time that I first heard about the street trust, which back then, of course, was the BTA. This is around 2001, 2002. And I immediately became a member and super thankful for all the bike lanes and infrastructure that made biking in Portland so awesome. So about after 4 years of engineering, I still loved my bike rides, but I wasn't loving the bike path I was on in life. I wasn't loving me as an engineer. There was something missing. There's something else I had to do somewhere I ought to be. I had to move towards my purpose. And that's when I started thinking about coffee. And in hindsight, if you know Nasa Familia and the local success we've had, it's really clear that that's what we had to do. Sorry. Anyways, that was just pretty clear that that's what we had to do. But thinking about a coffee business was way out there because there's a lot of things not going for me. For example, I would be leaving a secure engineering job and career. I'd be throwing away 5 years of college and the thousands of dollars I invested in that down the drain. I had 0 business experience. And then my wife and I, we had 0 savings and we had kid number 2 on the way. The other thing is I enjoyed coffee, but I knew nothing about coffee. And we're in Portland, right? Super competitive coffee town. So like pros and cons, like big con list of why I shouldn't do this. And so I felt like I had no business even thinking about going into the coffee business. Some say that entrepreneurship is jumping out of an airplane and then building your parachute on the way down. And that's really what it felt like. It was a major leap of faith for me. And, you know, to be fair, I did have a few things going for me. My family started growing coffee in Brazil in the 1890s. And so that's like 130 years of coffee farming tradition. And we're moving on to the 5th generation of coffee farming. So it's a rich tradition that I'm super proud of. And and an amazing connection, right, for a wannabe coffee entrepreneur. And then I was lucky that my family settled in the most perfect place for coffee in Brazil, where the soil is rich, the elevation is just right, the sunlight was perfect. It was like where we are, it's like the Napa Valley of coffee in Brazil. So it's a perfect spot. So the coffee tastes really great. I was also really proud of how my family did business, how my grandpa and his brothers treated the environment, and how they treated everybody that worked for and with us. There weren't any certifications they were chasing. It was just the right way to do business and the right thing to do. Sustainability for them was simply the ability to sustain. It wasn't a marketing term. It wasn't a greenwashing term. They had inherited the farm from their father, their parents, and they intended to nurture the farm and the soil and pass it on to the next generation. So that's sustainability in our family. It's the ability to sustain. So I'm super proud of that legacy. And I wanted to bring that story in our coffee to share with everybody in Portland. And I've actually wanted to share the farm with people in Portland. So we've taken people to Brazil to do bike rides at the farm. So maybe one day you all can join me. So yeah, I felt with that, it was time to take a leap of faith. So I quit my job. I found a college buddy. Maybe he was like my cousin, who accepted being under the ramp first. So I found a college buddy who liked the idea, and he invested $400, and he jumped out of the airplane with me, and we started hustling to make that parachute. Right off the bat, when we started the company, I really wanted to do something that would build a company that would give back to the community. And so from day one, we started a fundraising model where for each pound of coffee we sold, we would donate to organizations that we felt were making the world and Portland a better place. So in 2005, we donated a whole $75, I think. I remember being slightly embarrassed when I was writing the check for $39 to Engineers Without Borders. But then our sales grew, and so our donations grew, and I was able to write $500 checks and $1,000 checks. So things got better. In 2015, we joined the B Corp movement. This is a certification for businesses that care. We care about humanity, we care about the environment, we care about the future. And we firmly believe that business can be a force for good in the world. So to this day, this coffee business that I had no business started has raised over $175,000 for local organizations in town. And I'm super proud of that, what we've been able to accomplish so far. And I feel like we're just warming up. Another really cool thing we've been able to do with Nossa Familia is support a lot of local cool bike events. So I've volunteered, I don't know why, but I volunteered to wake up at 4 a.m. many years in a row to brew coffee at Cycle Oregon and Reach the Beach, Worst Day of the Year Ride, Mountain Bike Oregon, and so many other cool bike events in town. And we donate so much coffee for prizes for bike races as well. So it's been super fun community to get involved in. And that's probably why we I think it came to me in the shower, the concept of creating a full cycle coffee. So full cycle is a tribute to cycling, and it's a tribute to the vertical integration of Nossa Familia that covers the whole path from my family's farm to us importing, roasting, and serving coffee here in Portland. The full bean to cup trip. And with every pound of full cycle that we sell, we donate money to the Street Trust and the Community Cycling Center, two organizations that I'm super proud to support and give back to. So I don't want to glorify it, and I don't want to trick anybody into starting your own business right away. It hasn't all been fun and glorious. It's actually kicked my ass many times. And continues to, take last year, for example, it was all of a sudden we're falling off an airplane again and we needed to build a new parachute. But in the end, it's been very rewarding, and whether it's easy or hard, I feel like I am moving towards my purpose, and it's been worth it. And so I'll leave you with an invitation, and I'm asking you, what moves you, and are you moving towards that? And if you're scared and if you're hesitant, give me a call and I'll talk to you about building a parachute. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Augusto. And thanks for sharing your story with us tonight and for keeping us all percolated. This has been a great night of storytelling here. And we're actually going to take a really quick break from the storytellers. I've got a little bit of a surprise for everyone. In fact, I'm not even sure all of you know about this. So I want to bring to the stage the newest addition to the Street Trust team, the brand new executive director, Sarah Iannarone. Welcome, Sarah. Thanks so much for joining me tonight.
Hi, how are you? It's so great to
Good.
be here for my first live stream at the Street Trust. This couldn't be more fun. Are you so inspired by the stories?
Oh my gosh, so many good stories. I love the idea of how we can combine our love of bikes and to experience something amazing like starting a business, our love of the outdoors, and to do things like the great work that Pam is doing. And you, Sarah, are joining an organization with a really rich history and, in my opinion, endless potential. And I'm curious to know what excites you most about what the Street Trust is doing and your role in that.
This has been such a transformative year. For so many challenges that we've faced, we've also come up with innovations. We've learned how to come together and help each other. We've learned how to be more inclusive. We've learned how to think even more deeply about equity and justice. And so for that, I am so optimistic that an organization with the decades of experience in terms of community organizing, policy leadership, political advocacy, education, community building around a shared vision of a future in which everyone has access to safe, inclusive, equitable transportation and mobility. What an amazing opportunity and a sweet position for me to be in, especially being so underqualified as someone who only uses my bike for transportation and doesn't deliver coffee by it. And I don't do very many recreational rides. So I feel a little underqualified, but I'm excited to be here.
Well, it's certainly an exciting time. And I know there are many organizations that are doing impressive work at these challenging times. And tonight we're joined by a really exciting community of folks who are tuning in to support the Street Trust. And in your mind, why is supporting the Street Trust through this event so important?
There's a lot on our plate. As much as we can be optimistic about the ways that we're going to continue to make good progress when we come together as a community and demand change and bring our power behind transformation, we're facing a lot of challenges. We're looking at traffic deaths that are through the roof, even though we have people driving less because of the pandemic. We're looking at challenges in terms of not meeting our climate action goals. We're looking at spending billions on bridges and roads that can either help improve our lives or make the problems worse. And so right now, it's so important for us to come together in this shared vision of a better future where everyone has access to the transportation that they need to live their lives to the fullest, while we use the tools at our disposal to dismantle racism, patriarchy, and other systems of oppression that keep people from being their best selves. I see transportation as central to that. We talk about intersectionality, and in many ways it happens geographically in 2 dimensions for us, but in 3 dimensions across our community. So this is an amazing time for people to support each other in this work, to, I hope tonight, support the Street Trust. For those of you who have the capacity, I've been reminded that we're supposed to text LoveinMotion, which is one word, to 44-321, but definitely support us. Even if it's just good vibes you have to share, make sure you spread the good word, support the Street Trust as we support you in bringing better, safer transportation options your way.
Well, Sarah, thanks so much. Thanks for stepping into these big shoes, this big role, and best of luck to you in driving the organization forward.
Thanks, and thanks everybody for being here.
So as Sarah mentioned, there is a lot happening right now in transportation equity, and the Street Trust is really at the forefront of that. You do have the opportunity tonight to make a difference by texting 44-321. Text the word LoveinMotion. That's all one word, LoveinMotion, to 44321. I'm from the Film by Bike Film Festival. We love bikes. We're focused on arts and culture, and we're 19 years old. But when we got started, what a luxury for bicycle advocates across the city to focus on arts and culture in addition to advocacy. And the reason we were able to have that luxury, to be able to step aside from day-to-day meetings and to focus on arts and culture and building this film festival, is because of the impressive work of the Street Trust, then called the Bicycle Transportation Alliance. And because of the Street Trust's amazing work over the years, they have provided the infrastructure and the support to give us all safer streets. Now, of course, there's plenty of work to do, and that's why we need your support. But we wouldn't be where we are today as a leading city across the globe in transportation, in bike friendliness, in equity in transportation, in making all the great strides forward that we're making. We would not be here without the Street Trust. So as a thank you to the Street Trust, every dollar makes a difference, and you can make a difference right now when you text 44-321. Text the word LoveinMotion, that's all one word, to 44321. I also want to remind you we've got that great raffle. The value of this bike is $3,400 plus, and this is the BMC Alpen Challenge. I keep wanting to call it the Alpenrose Challenge. It's the Alpen Challenge. It's an e-bike from Clever Cycles. It's super easy to enter that raffle. We're going to pick the winner on Monday at noon. And if you want to enter, best of luck to you. You have a great chance of winning. Just text 44321 with the word bike raffle, all one word. Okay, folks, well, we're going to keep things rolling here. We've got another guest up to tell her tale. She is a first-generation American. She's a millennial. She's a Blacktina. She is a Portland State University educator and a civic leader who was recently appointed to the Charter Review Commission at the City of Portland. And I want to inform you that this story will share some challenging language that may not be appropriate for all audiences. Please welcome me in joining to the stage, Candace Avalos.
Hi, thank you so much. Niggers' lives don't matter. These were the words that I read as I opened my mail a few days after the 2020 election. As a millennial that doesn't really get a lot of mail, I opened that letter eagerly, thinking it was from a friend. And immediately my heart sank when I read those vitriolic and violent words. I'm still afraid to check my mail. Good evening, LoveinMotion audience. My name is Candace Avalos. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm here to talk about how my work around racial justice and being a Blacktina in Oregon sets me in motion. In my day job, I'm an educator at Portland State University, advising student government and Greek life. Do you remember that person from your high school who was always bugging you to vote for them because they were probably running for another student government office? Yeah, that person was me. So after many years of soul searching and trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, I ultimately decided to chase that passion into a career in education. I moved out to Portland in 2013 after grad school to work with college students who want to make a change on campus. And I wanted to transfer all of my knowledge and advocacy in student government to these young leaders. But it wasn't until a few years ago that I realized that what I was teaching them, these advocacy skills, how they were advocating for their students on their campus, is completely applicable to the real world and to real politics. Politics has felt a little out of reach for BIPOC communities for a long time. And even though everyone assumed that I was one day run for office because of the many years that I ran for student government, real politics didn't really feel like a space that I was welcome. And growing up, rarely did I see other leaders that looked like me. One day, I got an email from a colleague for the application to join the Citizen Review Committee, which is a police accountability board for the city of Portland. And I decided it was time to put what I was preaching into action. Here I am getting sworn into the position in September of 2017. And this was my opportunity to make a difference, I remember telling myself. This was my opportunity to move the needle on holding police accountable, because people who look like me often paid the price for this lack of accountability. Once I peeked behind the curtains and inner workings of City Hall, I immediately knew that my voice was going to be important in this space and that I needed to be here. When Amanda Fritz announced that she was retiring, it was a rare opportunity that I felt I couldn't waste to run for an open seat on Portland City Council. I definitely didn't feel ready, but I felt that the voices of my generation, often left behind by the economy and left out of the conversation, were desperately needed in City Hall. Here I am on my first day of canvassing for my campaign for City Council in February of 2020. As the daughter of Guatemalan immigrants who crossed the border in the 1970s and African Americans that lived through the Jim Crow South in Southern Virginia, the experiences of my multiracial family defined my American dream. Since leaving grad school and navigating my new life here in Portland, I was trying to make meaning of what I could contribute to this world. And running for office ended up feeling like the most obvious answer to put my passion for advocating for communities into action. But behind the smile was an extreme sense of anxiety and doubt. Who was going to take a 31-year-old Black Tina seriously? And at the time of this photo, I, along with the rest of us, had no idea what was coming as the COVID-19 pandemic threatened our humanity. I ran a hard and competitive race as a political newcomer and navigating a campaign during a global pandemic. And my sense of urgency to do right by my communities increased drastically in these months. I wasn't really sure how Portland was going to receive my candidacy as a young Black Tina, but I was completely overwhelmed by the outpouring of love and support. While I didn't win my primary election, I'm really proud of coming in second place, promoting a message of transformative change to our institutions. I spent the next few days resting, thinking about what my next political steps were going to be and how I could put my energy into making Portland a better place. Less than a week later, though, as I continued to process the outcome of the election, my purpose came back into harsh focus. Over a distressing 8 minutes and 46 seconds, George Floyd was murdered before our eyes in broad daylight. Mourning the harsh reality that Black bodies in this country are seemingly disposable, compounded with a global pandemic that was disproportionately ravaging Black and Brown families, really put me at my breaking point. Breonna Taylor's murder hit me incredibly close to home because I see so much of myself in her. I watched as thousands of Portlanders took to the streets to demand change. On June 5th, I headed to Revolution Hall with my homemade "Anti-Blackness is Killing Us" sign. And after months of quarantining, the fresh air and the human contact was almost too much to take in. But marching with thousands across the Hawthorne Bridge in the name of Black lives was for me the most invigorating experience. My sense of hope consumed me. Unfortunately, that feeling didn't last long. For months after Portlanders began marching in the streets, every morning Twitter would be filled with endless video streams of abusive, aggressive response by the Portland police. I felt all eyes upon me as the newly elected CRC chair. This was a critical moment that we couldn't miss to truly transform a powerful institution that was retaliating night after night against the racial justice efforts on the streets of Portland. I'm so grateful that the first Black woman ever to be elected to the Portland City Council, Commissioner Joanne Hardesty, was on our side. When I got the call to join the effort to put together what eventually became Measure 26217 for real police accountability, I didn't dare hesitate. I spent the next several months with a diverse coalition of changemakers working to ultimately pass this measure with 82% of the vote, which was incredible. The time for change was now. Which brings me back to the letter that shook me back into reality, that racism was alive and well in Portland, despite the thousands of people marching against it. The 2020 election brought me a huge sense of relief in a lot of ways, but this letter arriving in my mailbox just days after the election was a stark reminder that our problems started way before Trump, and they will certainly continue way after. These 3 letters arrived total at my home, each more threatening in nature, including a kill list with fellow friends and activists in the racial justice movement, just because we dared to want better for our community, because we dared to say that Black lives matter, that my life matters. When I entered the public eye as an outspoken Black Tina, I knew that receiving death threats would be likely, but I still couldn't prepare for the emotional toll it was going to take on me. But while you may be able to shake me, you definitely cannot break me. The movement for racial justice has been in motion for decades, and it's not showing any signs of slowing down. The way this community showed up for Black lives is something that I'm never going to forget. The systems of white supremacy that enable so much harm for communities of color can only begin to be dismantled when people have an awareness that they exist in the first place. And while the challenges in front of us feel really overwhelming, what really gives me hope for our future is the way that we Portlanders came together in big and small ways to grow and change amid so much chaos. Whether it was showing up to a protest like the many thousands did, sending letters to elected officials demanding change, or simply just having a conversation with your neighbor about why Black lives matter, I watch my community make a commitment to be better. Despite everything we endured together, 2020 was really our year, and the resilience of the Black community continues to inspire me. It was our year to confront our past and to change our future. It was our year to reconnect with our human instincts and learn how to love our neighbor. It was our year to amplify the voices of the oppressed and make a commitment to dismantle white supremacy. It was our year to demand our basic American rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but this time making it truly for all of us. And while 2020 was a year that took a lot out of me, it also replenished me with knowledge, empathy, and hope. Because Black lives matter, our lives matter, my life matters. And I'm not gonna let some racist jerk take that from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Candace, for sharing your story with us tonight. We want to thank all of our presenters tonight for taking the courage to share their stories with us, but especially for you, Candace. Such a personal tale and something really important for our audience to hear. Now, it's hard to believe we've already come to the end of tonight's event, but we only have one storyteller left, and that is Paul Buchanan. Now, he may be new to Portland, but he has a long history and investment in cycling and transportation, and he's here to share his tale with us. So please welcome to the stage, Paul Buchanan.
Hey, thank you, Aileen. Also, thank you so much to the Street Trust for having me. I'm really honored to be able to share this stage tonight alongside Pam, Augusto, and Candace. Now, when the Street Trust reached out to me, I was at first a little excited and a little taken aback. When Judge asked me to be up here, I had to make sure that BIPOC members of the community had to be asked ahead of me, because in the scheme of everything, what can I say this year? What I will say is this: Black lives matter, voices of color matter, women's voices matter, and I'm privileged to be here. So this year, I have a couple of big transportation anniversaries. It is the first year I've owned a car, and next month will mark my 10-year anniversary of my first day in the bike industry. Now, for the purists out there, my work right now is technically industry adjacent. So anyone outside the industry thinks I'm in it. But for the purists, again, I don't work at a shop or builder or distributor or manufacturer, but bikes are my life. Now, my 10 years working on bike, I've done almost everything on a bike. I've started a shop part-time and spent the next 4 years splitting time seasonally between the shop, doing courier work, substitute teaching, and inspecting houses. In 2014, I chose full-time corporate industry work. Thinking about tonight and how I ended up here in Portland, I wanted to share the story about how I got brought here. Now, in 2015, I knew I was moving to the coast. My partner at the time got a job I was going to quit mine at QVP, Quality Bicycle Products. And we had this date set. It was going to be the day after I turned 30. It was the summertime, and we had decided during a visit to Seattle in July that would be our move. That was when we started to thin out everything we owned, either sell it or donate it. Now, my bed was the largest thing that I owned at the time, and as an Eagle Scout, I'm comfortable enough camping, so I tried to get rid of it. I put it out on Facebook that I had this excess bed. One person reached out to me, a second person reached out to me. By the end of the day, I had a dozen offers, and then I just had to choose who was going to get it. Now, the bed was a gift from my friend Roman. I got it from him in like 2010. He and I had worked on a couple of campaigns together, and his wife took a job and him to Switzerland. And the day after I posted about the bed, he asked for it back. Unknown to me, he had moved back to Minneapolis. So of course I had to give it to him. I was relieved at least of trying to figure out who would get the bed. I kept sleeping on the bed. Roman was in no hurry to get it back, and I was in no hurry to sleep on the floor. 4 weeks before moving west, I was moving out of my apartment and tried to get the bed back to Roman. I reached out to him, but he was out of town until I was leaving. Now, I had worked with him enough that he reminded me of the code to his garage, and he tells me to drop off the bed and frame and give the mattress to one of my friends. I put it back on Facebook that I have the bed available. I was at work when my friend Nikki called asking for the bed. It was hers. I kept working and get another call. Does it have a box spring? No, sorry, it's just the mattress. Oh, okay, never mind then. Dang. Thing to have to go to the dump and get back to work. Another call. Actually, Nick and Kayla have a box spring for me, so I'll take it. Great. It had to happen tomorrow, Saturday morning. It was the same day as Babes in Bikeland, which at the time was the largest women, trans, and femme alley cat in the country. So it was going to be a big day for everyone in town. I had to get up, load the bed, deliver. It's one of those fall days when the air is cool in your breath, the sun warms your skin, and the leaves rustle. Now, I was using my dad's hatchback wagon to move stuff. The bedding and frame fit in the back, while the mattress was lashed to the roof. I made the drop at Roman's and headed to Nick and Kayla's. I call Nikki. She's at a cafe a couple blocks from the house, and she invites me over, so I oblige. Parking, I nervously leave the bed tied to the car to the roof. Walking up to the cafe, I see Nikki. She's having breakfast with my friend Andy, who lives in a completely different part of town, and it's 9 a.m. They're married now, but I was a little taken aback because I didn't even know that they were hanging out until then. So I sit at the table with them, and as we chat, Andy asks me what I'm doing for work when I get out here. I stare back at him. Nothing, man. During the summer visit, I met with bike shops, a distributor, looked back into the public sector. Everyone telling me the same thing. Let's talk when you get out here. Andy stares back. You should work for me, dude. I ask, what? Andy tells me they had an opening and I would slay. Now, I had known Andy for a few years and knew this little company kind of in the bike industry that he worked at and what they did. But I had no idea what he did. He was the vice president. He knew I inspected rental houses when a tornado hit North Minneapolis. I rode with Andy to his second place finish at the Super Bowl Alley Cat. He attended a transportation forum I organized that led to a bike lane in a business district on his daily commute. He knew how capable I was and that bikes are life. I had no idea what he did, but that bikes were life. That night, Andy was working at his food cart for the Babes in Bikeland after party. After a day of getting my life ready to move, I go and ask him more about this job he has. He tells me to trust him, go check it out and apply. That was 23 days until I was moving west. Next day was the garage sale to get rid of all of my supposed valuables. So between bartering on packages of knickknacks and bike parts, I check out this job posting of a blanket, represent us in the market, XYZ commercial sales position. I throw together a cover letter, resume, and things are starting to kind of come together in my head. So I also get together a 2-week notice. It's 22 days. Monday morning, I send all 3. I was either going to have a super chill last week in town riding bike or cramming for a new job before driving to the coast. 21 days. Wednesday of that week, I get the offer, 19 days and relief. Now, having those 2 weeks without that weight on my shoulders was later overshadowed by the anxiety of learning a job from 1,600 miles away before the days of Zoom. It's been a while now, so I've gotten used to it. Telling you this story tonight just reminds me of how lucky I am to be here, of how lucky I was that, unknown to me, my preparation by cosmic chance met opportunity at the cafe that morning. And as advocates, I feel like we're always preparing, and in spite of where we are now and all we've been through with traffic violence and 2020 and everything else, that we're going good places. So let's continue to prepare for when we get there. Thanks again to the Street Press for having me, and thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you so much to Paul for sharing your story. And it's hard to believe here we are at the end of tonight's program. I want to thank all of our storytellers for being brave in sharing their stories with us tonight. And to all of you for joining us for this incredible night. If you were moved by any of the stories that you heard tonight, or anything that the storytellers told, we want to encourage you to join us in making more change happen by texting LoveinMotion, that's all one word, LoveinMotion to 44-321. So let's invite back onto the stage all of tonight's storytellers. Let's get everybody up on the stage here. Turn on your screens. Paul and Candace and Pam Slaughter and Augusto Carniero, everyone back up on stage, and a big round of applause for all of our storytellers. We know you all put a lot of work into preparing for tonight's event, so thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you.
I also want to thank tonight's ASL interpreters for joining us and making this an inclusive event. Crescenciano Garcia Jr., thank you. And also Leah McSwain Ibarra, thank you as well. We want to thank our sponsors, Clever Cycles, Living Room Realty, Walker Tracker, and Film by Bike. It has been an incredible night tonight of the annual LoveinMotion event. Who knows what things will look like next year, but we can't thank you enough for joining us this year, and to all of our storytellers for sharing their tales. I'm Aileen Crowdy with the Film by Bike Festival, signing out. Have a great night, and thanks for joining us.
Bye.